Hey, hi, how you doing? This is the Gamertron, and welcome back to the Gamertron Show. Welcome back to another commentary, or this weird podcast thing. I still haven't come up with a name for it. It's gonna be the commentary podcast thing. There's a name, commentary podcast thing. Whatever. Anyways, welcome back to yet another, and welcome to a very special topic. I am once again joined by Johan.
Hello everybody, remember me?
And today we are talking about a very special video game that's very special to a lot of people, The Walking Dead. Walking Dead Season 2 specifically. Now, spoilers! I'm going to put big text right here in this section. Spoilers! Big spoilers. This is we're talking about episode 5, season 2, final episode. We're talking about the endings, the ending, the final confrontations. Again, hint, hint, spoilers. So, if you haven't played it yet, or if you don't care, or you care about spoilers, turn back now. If you've already played it, or you don't care about spoilers, please stay and let us have a talk. Anyways, Kenny versus Jane. The big confrontation. These two main characters, Kenny, returning character from Season 1, loved by many, and Jane, hard-strong, head-fast, brand-new female character, and Clem's new mentor in Season 2. They got in a fight. A big fight at the end. Cost one of them their lives, or both. Well, people are taking sides as to, of course they're taking sides, as to which one was right, which one was wrong, which one Clem should have gone with. But again, that's all subjective, that's all personal choice, but Johan and I are here to discuss our opinion and what we think of it. Johan, you have the stage.
Thank you. While I'm not entirely on Jane's side in this conflict, I'm not entirely on Kenny's either. A lot of people are being tied in between what you could say the loyalty faction versus the more survivalist faction. And Kenny is one of the more popular, is a very popular character that has been since in the first season and survived into the second season, while Jane is a more newer one. People tend to focus very much on the fact that Kenny has mostly staying loyal to Kenny through and through the entire series. However, the main point that I want to make here, and the question I kind of want to pose, is really, what would you do in this situation? People say that, oh, I would shoot Kenny, or I would shoot Jane, but really? Is that really such a smart or wise choice to do? You see, on one side you have Kenny, you have a man that has lost everything, you have a man that has seen his kid become turned, or been forced to kill his own kid, or if you had Lee do it, Lee shoots his son Duck, and his wife committing suicide because of the pressure of at the prospect of killing her own son. And you've seen him get the spark of life again, get some love back, and then that's taken away from him, and he's just left a very broken man. Now, throughout the second season, you see Kenny slowly degrading into what can be considered a form of, I think it's rude or rash for me to say it, but I would say a rabid dog. The way a rabid dog acts, it can act calm and nice in one point, and then all of a sudden lash out and bite. So he's slipping slowly into insanity. And on the other side, you have a survivalist that bluntly tells you that if push comes to shove, then we'll leave you behind. Someone who has been around, someone who has survived, someone who has done a terrible amount of things in order to survive, but generally is a survivalist, but also is also a good and honest person that comes back after she departs from the group. Well, my question here is really, or what I just don't understand is why a lot of people call Jane a bitch, and why so many people choose to save Kenny when both of these endings, in my opinion, they are not exactly good game. They're not good game. What am I saying? What the hell am I saying? No, I mean they're not exactly good endings. Neither of these endings, in my opinion, are good. In fact, I'll say right away that my favorite endings in this season is actually the endings where Clementine either where both characters die, and Clementine leaves off on her own, or where she leaves the group, or where Kenny leaves the group at Wellington. But I don't think the endings are good where you kill Kenny and you go with Jane and you back to Carver's stronghold, or where you choose to stay with Kenny. It's a nice moment and all, but I would choose to have him stay behind because he's just so far gone. So my favorite endings really are where you leave Kenny or where you leave Jane behind, because both of these characters represent something that I quite honestly don't like. Jane is obviously a survivor, and there are people who say, "Oh, Jane master race" and all that good stuff, because she's ready to do what it takes in order to survive. And unlike everyone else in the story, she's actually very honest. I'll get into that again, but make your arguments. Make your arguments, Ryan.
All right. Well, I want to say right away, I'm one of those people who think Jane is a bitch. I really do think Jane's a bitch. I think she was once a good person, but the world of The Walking Dead destroyed her, like so many other good people. And for one damn good reason. She left AJ in a car alone, surrounded by zombies. You know what? If you did that with an adult, you did that with a little kid, I'd be okay. You know what? I may have went with Jane on this. Like, if a little kid or an adult, I wouldn't be fighting. I wouldn't be calling her a bitch. But she left a baby in a car alone when you are surrounded by flesh-eating zombies. Like, there are more important and more worse things than Kenny at the moment. Kenny will not eat you alive. Kenny will not hurt the baby in any way, shape, or form. He may hurt you for sure, but only if you provoke him. And that's exactly what Jane did. She provoked Kenny. She meaninglessly provoked him. Like, yes, I will admit, Kenny was unstable. He's lost everything. He's been through some tough shit. I will admit that wholeheartedly. But he will remain calm because of Clementine, and because of you keep him cool. You do the obvious. You don't try to piss him off. Jane went out of her way. She went out of her way. She didn't need to. She did it anyway. She went out of her way to piss Kenny off, especially when she brung up his family. Like, okay, Jane, you know nothing about Kenny, and you're making assumptions and saying this simply awful shit about Kenny's family. I'm sorry, but fuck you, Jane. That's unwarranted. That was simply unwarranted. Like, I can understand I can understand Jane's loss. She lost her sister. She was forced to leave her behind because she didn't want to live anymore, and she was being a burden. That's some tough shit right there, and I do sympathize with Jane. But Jesus Christ, she provoked Kenny and left a baby alone in the car. She's a psychopath. She's lost it. Granted, Kenny isn't much better. He's at the breaking point, but he's still calm and rational if you let him be calm and rational. Jane didn't do that. She provoked the fuck out of him. I mean, like, I understand people are going to prevent and say Kenny was going to break anyway. He wasn't going to break in that specific moment of the car. Jane brought it on. Jane brought this on. Now, I will admit, like, people are going to say, like, Kenny overreacted when he didn't see Jane didn't have the baby. Like, he assumed Jane killed AJ. It's like, no, that's not what Kenny meant. Like, by kill the baby, I think people are taking that too literally. I think Kenny, now this is subjective, but I think what Kenny meant when he said, you killed him, you killed a fucking baby, I think he was talking about, like, he left AJ behind, like he left his sister behind, Jane left her sister behind. That's what he meant. He was afraid he did the same thing. I keep getting he and she confused. He was thinking she did the same thing, but this time with AJ. She was so cowardly that she left AJ behind. When in reality, it was something worse. She left him alone, undefended, and went out of her way to start a fight with Kenny. I find it so bullshit, like, if you choose the ending where you shoot Kenny and Jane says, I didn't know he was going to react like that. I just wanted to show you how angry he could get. Bullshit! You left a baby to die. You didn't think he was going to try and fucking kill you. You left a baby to die, or you got a baby killed. You didn't think he'd have a violent reaction, and oh yeah, he probably wasn't going to kill you. You pulled a fucking knife on him!
I find it interesting that she seems to treat Clementine like a little kid. I wanted to show you what he was capable of. Well, let's see here. Let's see. He beat Carver to death. He beat Carver's to death regardlessly, and gets a sick amount of satisfaction from actually torturing the man to death.
Well,
he
Carver was a
snaps
sick
an
son.
Arvo
Sorry to
and-
interrupt you, Johan. But Carver was a sick son of a bitch.
I know. He also snaps and beats the crap out of Arvo for running away, and nearly kills him too by punching him to the face. And then she says, "I did it for you. I wanted to show you what he was capable of." Yeah, we know what he's capable of. We know what he's capable of. That's why I really love the ending where you just say, "I'm not going with you," and she's just standing there. "I was doing it for you. I was doing it with you." I think what redeems Kenny in this regard of killing a person is that he accepts that he is becoming something really evil. Not evil, but something dangerous. He accepts and embraces it. And maybe to some degree, I do like the ending where you choose to go with Kenny too, because he becomes so touched and so happy that you forgive and absolve him that you go with him. So that I can find to be good. But I don't find the endings good because they are all open-ended endings. First of all, you know nothing about Wellington. How do you know there isn't someone like Carver running the place? I mean, it looks pretty well defended. Maybe Wellington is a community where they learn to work together, or maybe it's a place of slaves. You don't know. All endings are ambiguous. All endings have dark implications, like the three you have here. You choose to send them away, they may come back. You choose them to invite them, they may turn on you. Clem walking away on her own, that says much about itself. You walking away with Kenny, it also says much by itself. You at least have someone you have with you, but their future, even with their supplies, is left unanswered. Oh yeah, speaking of, since I am on the endings and all that stuff, I love Telltale's game's way of telling a story. I love these multiple endings. I really do. And I'm really I really hope they make a season 3, and I really, really, really hope they take into account all of these endings. I really do. I have a friend that is on the Jane train, and
the Jane train! That's genius!
Yes, and pretty much says that, but if the default is that Kenny is alive, I'm done with Telltale games. But I'm saying, dude, come on, they're not gonna do that. They're not gonna say, the Kenny ending was the default one. They're not Mass Effect. They're not Dragon Age Origins, or what I'm saying. They're not guys that. Oh no, wait, yeah, no, okay, never mind. But they're not like BioWare in SWTOR, where the gender of Revan in the Coder games is ambiguous, but then they retcon it and with books and shit, and the final game says, he's a white male guy with Sasuke Uchiha issues. They're not like that. They're gonna take into account every ending you did, because they did that in a small degree in season 2. I mean, I think Omid, you have a choice to save Omid, and if he dies, the scene where he gets killed in the first act is not there. But since I watch Cryotic, love the guy's work, he's a great guy, his investment into the character and the story is absolutely delightful to watch. Where Omid actually is alive, they're gonna kill off each character that survives. Jane and Kenny will be in season 3 for a little while, depending on who you chose, but they're gonna get killed off eventually, and who knows, maybe Krista will make a return. We are never entitled
that was
to her,
one big thing about the story. The whole season
yeah.
I was waiting, okay, when's Krista coming back? Holy shit, this is the last episode and we didn't see Krista again. What the fuck?
Yeah, so everything is left ambiguous. Everything is left up in the air, and I think Telltale, if they make season 2, season 3, I mean, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great, I hope. But they are gonna think about it. They're gonna think about every possible outcome and make a solution for it. And then where a character does something heroic or cowardly or something and they die, and then we move on with a new story. Or maybe Kenny and Jane actually follows with you through the entire season 3 if either of them survived. Or yeah. That would be kind of cool. That would be really, really elaborate. And as for the characters themselves, I don't hate Kenny, and I don't hate Jane. I don't hate any. Okay, I hate Arvo. Little piece of shit. Yes. I don't like Mike much either. But all the characters in these games are wonderfully written. Not since Dragon Age Origins, one of my favorite RPG games with this kind of structure. It's really It's great. It's great. And Kenny, Clementine, and Lee, they remain some of the most complex characters I've seen in a video game. Kenny especially, as he's a character you... While Clementine's choices are all based on the players, Kenny's choices are the reactions to your decisions, and he evolves and grows. Which is why I actually secretly, okay, not secretly, but I do actually kind of want to see him in Season 3. Because with Jane, I know what we got. With Kenny, not so much. I find him intriguing, and to see him actually die and actually say, do it, it's just so great. Kenny in the past wouldn't accept being killed off so suddenly. He wouldn't accept it, but this Kenny, knowing how far he has gotten after killing Jane, it's great. It's great, and which makes him... Yeah, it makes him a great complex character. Yes, he's nuts, he's going crazy, but he's a great and well-written character. That's awesome. Carver is a well-written character too, and both Kenny and Jane, they are very similar to Carver. Both are uncompromising in their beliefs, and they're willing to do what it takes. The difference between Jane, and why I'm also a little on the side of Jane, is that she doesn't really lie about her true nature. Carver doesn't lie about his true nature, but Kenny and everyone else, they kind of do. They are on your side, and then they get pissed at you and toss you aside. Kenny constantly tries to calm down or tell you that, oh, I'm sorry, I lost it. Forgive me, darling. But Jane just says, you know, I'd leave you in a heartbeat if I could. And she's not really a horrible person. The Russians, she comes back and kills one of the Russians attacking you, or survives whatever. And she's shocked by the fact that he didn't die immediately. She finds it shocking and appalling to watch this man slowly die, because she has never killed a person before. She's only killed walkers, which makes me think that she possibly is a pretty weak character when it comes to taking a life. She opts to leave them up to their fate and leave them behind, as to actually stay and watch them perish or kill them outright. While I don't condone Kenny's action of killing Carver the way he did, I would have just shot the fucker in the head and be done with it, or I would just... Or my favorite choice, which might just as well be just as cruel as Carver's, I would have just shot him in the legs and throw one gun with one bullet nearby and saying, crawl to that gun and try survive and see if see who gets you first, you or the zombies. And I would just left him there.
Oh, dude, that's fucking epic!
Yeah, that's the pirate way. Pirates generally, when they had a traitor, if they didn't kill him outright, they put him on the island. It's a Jack Sparrow thing. They put him on the island with one bullet. When the heat got to them, if they didn't die of starvation, they pulled the trigger on themselves. Like Jack Sparrow, who was the fucking badass and kept the bullet for Barbossa. And that would have been the same thing for Carver. I don't think Carver would survive with 2 bullet-filled legs or broken legs with zombies with him. My question is really, would he face the zombies like a man and let them kill him, or would he shoot himself? Seriously, how you survive that? Or just leave him for the zombies to finish him off. Maybe we need a gun better than he does. Either way, I wouldn't stay to watch. Kill him, or just leave. But don't beat him to death just because you want satisfaction out of it. I can understand Kenny's frustration, but trust me, Carver would be 10 times more pissed if you left him for the zombies than he would be after you beat him to death. He wanted Kenny to beat him to death. He wanted to turn Kenny into a monster, and he succeeded to a degree. He succeeded to a degree, and he wanted the same thing for Clementine. He succeeded to some degree if you stay and watch. If you don't, he becomes really pissed. I dropped my thread. Where was I?
You were talking about Carver turning them, succeeding turning Clem and Kenny into monsters if you stay or don't stay.
Yeah, precisely. Okay. He successfully turns Kenny into a monster. He either successfully or unsuccessfully turns Clementine into the same thing if you leave. It's arguable that doesn't really happen. I may be jumping a bit too far here. But I'm just pointing out that Carver was this sadistic monster who gladly and gleefully admitted that he does horrible things for the sake of survival.
Ah, so
and
he has similarities
really
to both
does.
Jenny and Kane, and overall all characters are similar to one another, just in a couple of different ways. That certain decisions they make.
Precisely. depending on their actions. And ultimately, Kenny drives everyone away because he's slowly losing it. But, you know, honestly, I find Bonnie and Mike to be extremely weak characters. They're not as strong characters as the one in season 1, as the season 1. They're not as strong. Bonnie is... she's a weak character. Mike is the weakest one because he gets no character development whatsoever.
Except for that awesome line. Except for that awesome line, I'd eat the fuck out of a raccoon.
Yeah, okay. But he doesn't otherwise get much character development. I mean, who the hell is this guy anyway? Bonnie, I think she was part of this mini episode things where you follow at least a couple of Yes, okay, yeah, so she does get some character development there, but as for season 2, she's kind of weak, and nothing she did in the 500 days or so, if she did anything, really comes into play here. In fact, some characters don't actually show up there, I think. Anyways, Mike is a weak character, and Arvo is just a fucking asshole.
Yes.
I don't like this kid. I really don't. Okay, Clementine killed your sister, but you know what? Your sister was about to eat your legs off, stupid bastard. And then he's just such a... And I really don't think that the guy was... Oh, he saw Clementine do something with the gun, which was just, you know, sort of dropping it or, you know, not really going to do anything with it, and he just pulls the trigger. He didn't do it because, oh no, she's gonna shoot him! No, he did it because, you killed my sister! I murder you good! And he does. Okay, he doesn't. He actually doesn't succeed, but I really hope this character shows up in Season 3 to get his fucking ass beat.
Yes.
I don't approve Kenny beating him because he was running away or, you know, doing a sensible thing here. I don't approve of that. I don't approve of that. Beating Arvo up before he does anything really horrible is not an excuse. Although the guy is sort of a junkie. Since I've been discussing this topic with another friend of mine, he sort of concluded that Arvo wasn't really gonna keep these medicines for his sister. He was actually stashing them away for himself. And that actually kind of makes sense. Why in the world would he be stashing away medicine that his sister was needing and then head back? That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Besides, his sister and his friends, they look pretty fucking healthy. They're healthy enough to stage an ambush and pretty much behave normally. Yep. They don't look so sick to me. So they're pretty much just a bunch of bandit junkies people thingies that hangs around and then gets killed. So, as for Arvo, I'm not defending anything he does. But I will say that it's not cool to beat a character up before he has done anything horrible. But I do hope that since he's such a goddamn sack of shit and just wants Clementine dead because you killed my sister, I want to see this guy die at some point. Yes. I really do want to see him
die. Tear out the neck.
And tear out the neck, whatever, gets shot by some guy he trusts. Or, I don't care, just make it painful. However, back to the conversation at hand. Jane does do a lot more for Clementine than any other character in this season does. Because for the most part, all characters rely on Clementine to do all their work for them. It's not explicitly stated, and obviously they do something, otherwise they'd be shit characters and you just feel like you're doing fetch quest for an MMO. Yeah. But there's not much they do. It pretty much hinges on her because obviously, like all video game characters in the history of whatever, they know that the player character is the only fucking competent one in the freaking game.
The player character needs to do something. It's simple as that. They need to get they can't, because if they had everybody else doing the job for them, then we'd hear the complaint, "Oh, I get to do nothing. A bunch of characters do it off screen." So I can understand why Clem is forced to do these things, because then people complain, "Oh, Clem gets to do nothing because she's a kid."
Yeah, true. But anyways, back at hand, Jane does a lot of things, and if you choose to get Sarah with you, yes, Jane tries to convince you to leave Sarah behind, and actually I'm with her on that. Sarah's just a train wreck. She's completely useless. Does it mean I think it's cool to leave her behind? No, I don't. I would try to get her out. And what redeems Jane here is that if you insist, Jane will actually be the one to jump down and try to save her. Because regardless if you bring Sarah with you or not, she's gonna die regardless. But if you bring her with you, when she actually is at death's door, Jane is actually the one who's going to try and save her. And that really kind of makes Jane, that makes Jane a character I can look up to, because she's sort of loyal in that regard. She likes Clem and she's loyal. To Clem, the problem is she's not loyal to anyone else. She's not interested in helping anyone else, maybe because, much like Kenny, they're actually similar here too, because Kenny, he has a difficulty of letting go of things, and that's what Jane has too, even if she doesn't admit it. Remember, Kenny does a lot of things in both seasons that has him follow false hopes or potential fairy tales. He latches on to anything that gives him hope, and then is utterly destroyed when it turns out that hope was true. Just imagine if Wellington was not real. What if Wellington was false? What if Wellington was just some fairy tale somewhere? What if it was a bandit village? Or what if it was overrun? What if it was something else than what Kenny had hoped for? It would have utterly destroyed him. Not only would he have killed a person to save 2 other lives, or turn him into become something horrendous, he would have driven everyone away, and they would have in the end it was they were right and he was wrong. That would have been a pretty bold twist, and it would have been a great and bold twist. I'm not saying everyone would have liked it, but it would have been a freaking bold twist.
I think it would have been. I think that would have been just
open ending.
I think it would have been just too dark and depressing, because The Walking Dead is already a dark and depressing game. Had they thrown that on top, because let's admit it, if that happened, Kenny would probably commit suicide.
Yeah, you've hit the bottom of the barrel at this point, so we had to have something that give hope. And again, it's an ambiguous unknown future regardless, because again, like I stated earlier, you don't know what's behind the walls of Wellington. Oh, that's a good title, Behind the Walls of Wellington. Nice. Anyways, Kenny and Jane are similar like I said, they're similar, and I keep saying like I said, whatever. They're similar because they both hold on to something and they have trouble letting go. And Kenny really he can't let go of the old moral values of the world in the past, believing this is right and this is wrong, but he has a difficulty understanding that sometimes it's necessary to survive. But then again, you have Lee and the argument that we can't take shit we find in a car, which they take anyway, because they don't know where it's abandoned or not, and that ends up biting them in the ass in the finale of season 1. So yeah, so alright, maybe holding on to moral values, morals and ethics in the past is a good idea sometimes.
Or better yet, compromise.
But holding them onto the way Kenny... Compromise. Don't take too much, don't take too little. But, and then we have Jane, who says she's fine, can survive on her own, but she is too fond and attached to Clementine that she comes back.
Because she's the new little sister.
I do like the fact...
She's her chance of redemption.
Precisely. Yeah. Yeah. She's Bioshock. She is Walking Dead's answer to Bioshock 2's big sister. So she comes back and saves them, and it really does make it kind of creepy. You're right. She probably isn't right in the head. I mean, she pushes Kenny too far, and if she's angry and all, But I can understand. She probably was one of those who originally wanted to go with Mike and those other guys. But again, I like her honesty. She's honest about leaving the group. Everyone says, oh, she left the group, she's a fucking bitch. Well, she actually was right. Like it or not, she was totally right about leaving the group. She was right all along.
Yeah, because if she didn't
what
leave,
did she
the
say?
Russians would have got her with the others.
Yeah, precisely, but no, okay, not entirely. She was right all along, because what did she say? This group is falling apart and it will break, and when it does, they will drag you down with them. What happened? The group fell apart, it broke up, and it almost got Clementine killed. Oh my! Now she doesn't seem like such a bitch anymore. Okay, so she seems like a bitch because she left, but not so much because it was her survival instinct that told her to get out of there before everything went south. And then she came back, it went south, she's still stuck around. That makes her a pretty strong character. She's bluntly honest and says what's on her mind. That's admirable. I find it admirable. Unlike the other characters, finding honesty in a world like that, even if it's a pretty brutal honesty, saying, I will leave you if things go wrong because I'm looking after number one, and I'm looking after you now. that's kind of rare to come across because everyone tries to stick together and they're trying to do their best and yada yada yada, and it just goes downhill. I can't stand by any of these sides. I won't stand by those defending Kenny. I can't defend his actions for killing Jane. And I can't, because I know he's falling. He's falling and he's falling and it's gonna crush him in the end. We can't have him.
Okay, you know what? I have to interrupt and I have to give my argument here. I have to give my argument here. I really don't think that Kenny is falling and falling and falling. I think really after killing Jane, he's and after killing Jane, he admits like, I've done wrong. I'm a bad person. I can't hide that.
No, it's true.
I can't hide that anymore.
And it's true.
But I do know one thing.
It's true.
I love Clementine. She's the only family I got. I'm going to do what's best for her, and I'm going to do what's best for this baby. And when he gets to Wellington, and the fact that he doesn't, I love the fact. I really expected when the woman guard of Wellington said, "We don't have room." I expected Kenny to go, "Damn it," like break up, walk away. No! What's the first thing he does? He says, "Take the kids. You don't need to give me anything. You can keep the food and medicine. I will walk away. Just take the kids."
Okay, I retract my earlier statement. I did say that he does redeem himself. If you shoot him, if you leave him at Wellington or go with him at Wellington, he does redeem himself by, he admits that he's wrong, and he also, he accepts at the very end, the man who held on the longest to everything is willing to leave everything. He held on to the longest to everything that gave him hope, and then he lets it either walk away or leave it willingly for a better future. Jane wouldn't do that, or Jane just doesn't. No, she wouldn't do that. So who's truly the weakest one here? That really is a good question. I won't say Jane. Jane is strong as a survivor. She knows what she needs to do, but as someone who actually, she hasn't. And I suppose it's true. I suppose it's true what people say. She hasn't gone through the things Kenny has gone through. She hasn't seen it. She hasn't lost that much. She lost her sister, but since she left everyone who fell apart, never got to know anyone really well, she hasn't really known loss the same way Kenny has. Thus, Kenny's a stronger person for actually leaving what he values the most behind. Let it slip away, let it walk away, and accept his fate. That's really strong, and that's what makes him such a great and complex character. But ultimately, I don't think any of these things come into mind when people first play the game. And this was an argument I really want to make now, is that the problem with the players is that a lot of them, they don't see themselves in the position of Clementine. What do you see and what do you think? As a player for first time player, I see, okay, I got a choice here. Okay, what do I do? Oh, and I'll be honest, at the very first, if this was the first time I played this episode, I would have shot Kenny, because I see that Kenny is becoming dangerous. But I would have also left. The first choice, when the choice popped up to actually leave Jane behind for Chaotic, since I don't play the games, I really need to play the games and make my own decisions there, because he goes with Jane, but I think, you know what? She lied to me. She put a kid in danger. I'm not going with this person. But of course, Chaotic, great guy, but chose to go with Jane regardless. And I respect his choice for it. Respect his choice and don't bitch about him for not picking Kenny or anything else. Respect the choices of the people you watch. But I would have chosen to leave Jane behind. Problem is that now that I know which ending I like the best, which just so happens to be the one where you let Kenny live, even if I don't support the act of shooting Kenny, or support the act of killing Jane or shooting Kenny, even if I don't support either of these acts, I would have gone with it because I know it's the better ending. And there's the problem. There's a real problem. You know how this is gonna play out, and it's also a popularity contest. It's a Batman versus Superman, where Batman will get the upper hand because he's Batman and everyone is popular, and Batman happens to be Kenny. Okay, that's a pretty awesome image.
Kenny Man.
And Jane is Superman, which, while still being very popular, not as popular as Kenny Man. So That's the problem. People choose Kenny because they had more time invested into him. They had an entire first season to see him, and follow him around and sort of be his best buddy. They were basically bros, Lee and Kenny. And you had the entire second season where everyone was so happy that Kenny was alive. Wonderful, woohoo! Hootie nannies all around and everything like that, and everything in between. And then we have Jane, which I think is a strong and likable character, but she just doesn't have that much of a season. She has half the season developed to her, or third.
I'd say about a quarter.
Third parts of the season developed her, and a quarter. Yeah, that's right, a quarter. She gets some development, she gets some story element, but not enough for us to really get what's going on behind that mind, and get every ups and downs. What makes it so shocking is we followed Kenny around, and then we see him. We know he can get violent. We know he's prone to rash thinking and rash actions, such as he kills I forgot the woman's name, but he kills her father with a freaking brick after the guy gets a heart attack, and we're not sure if he will live or die, and he just smashes the head.
That guy was probably going to die. They had no medical equipment. They had nothing whatsoever. If you need something.
Yeah, but again, yes, but again, Kenny is prone to rash action. This is what I wanted to show.
That.
Not
I would
that he
argue
killed the guy. His thinking was good. His thinking was accurate, and as an accurate assessment. If he was dead, he would have turned. This is true. It's good and all, but it was just so sudden. It was just so sudden when he could have crushed. If Lee had actually tried to put a pill in the man's mouth, he could have accidentally crushed his hand. I'm just saying that Kenny is shown. He has shown that he is quick to anger, and he's prone to rash and very quick decisions and actions. That is sudden. But to see him actually jump into action and spontaneously beat a man to death, get angry and almost beat a kid to death, and then get even angrier and upright stab a woman to death, that's the shocking bit. That's really shocking to see. Even for a video game, it's shocking to see.
Power of the Walking Dead.
Again, Power of the Walking Dead. True, man. That's true. Hits you right there in the heart. And I think I lost my trail of thought again, but no, it's just, again, little development for Jane. We have seen that she's capable of doing things that are specific choices that you may like or dislike. She is a survivor. She's a survivalist. Ken is someone who tries to keep everything together, but ultimately doesn't succeed very well because his anger, his temper, and his clinging onto something. Everyone agrees that Wellington may be a lost cause. Everyone agrees on this. They were ultimately wrong. Does that make it right? Right. I was going back to the fact that what I think is the issue with what gamers do is we know the outcome of the story. We know that Wellington is real, and everyone agrees, even I, that it's probably one of the better endings. That is why the decision isn't going to be, I'm looking at two people here, what would I do in this situation? I know Kenny is, I can see that Kenny is, he's dangerous. He's gonna kill someone. He's gonna kill someone. Granted, if it was any of us in this position, at least me, I would probably shoot Kenny in the leg. I would shoot him in the arm just to disarm him. And then, or just, in the very start of it, just step in between them and say, guys, chill the fuck out.
Well,
this isn't helping anyone.
Clementine did try to do that, and what did she get? She got pushed away or even hit.
But she's a little girl. If it was me, I would probably take an iron pipe and probably bitch slap both of them back to their senses. Well, that would probably make things worse. But regardless, it's not the choice of the moment anymore. It's what is the better ending. What do I think it's the better ending? Which character do I like the most? It's all popularity versus. And that kind of kills the experience that we were supposed to live through. And that's the luxury a lot of gamers have these days. I can make a bad choice in Dragon Age, but I can just load a previous save if I didn't like it and redo it. I can do it in Mass Effect. Mass Effect 2, I played that game. I did not manage to do things in a proper order in proper time, so my crew got fucking slaughtered by the Reaper machine, goo gunk machinery. Okay, I'll just load a previous save and do it in the right order, and I get the better ending. Yay! We don't have we have the luxury of making we have both the luxury of making a decision and the luxury to decide eventually to reload and redo a decision we did not like. And that kind of kills the experience for me. That kind of kills the idea that I know what's gonna happen. I know the outcome. I know the ending. I know that Kenny is right. I know that he's willing to sacrifice and give up everything for Clementine and AJ. And then we have Jane, who ultimately does all the things that you don't like, and eventually the choice, the worst of the one, the darkest and most ambiguously one, the most obvious one to lead to a sad or depressing ending is obviously the one where you go with Jane. Go with Jane. So obviously everyone who knows the outcome is gonna choose Kenny over Jane, not choose Kenny and Jane as characters, as people we know and care about, and who am I most likely to survive with? Who is the most likely not to turn on me at some point? We don't know with Kenny because he's at such an emotional, distressing stage that we don't know. What if he's still angry? What if he goes after me for some reason? I don't know that. That's scary. That is really scary. Or with Jane, she pulled a knife on Kenny and sliced his gut open almost. Can I trust her? Can I trust her? And that really keeps carrying over if you shoot Kenny. Can I still trust her after knowing what she just did with the baby? Can I trust her? You don't know that. But that sort of falls flat when you know that one ending, that Kenny ultimately redeems himself by being someone who either accepts his fate if you shoot him, accepts his fate if you leave him, or accepts his fate if you leave him at Wellington, or just feels absolved and redeemed because you decide to go with him. And Jane, where you leave her, she just whines about how she did it for you. You decide to become more like her or more like Carver if you decide to shoo them away, or you get a choice here where it's clear that, oh, maybe these three might actually murder us at some point. We just don't know. And it kills the experience. So ultimately, I don't think this Jane versus Kenny argument and people taking sides is really... Don't take sides. Both are great characters, and both choices actually are dark and ambiguous in their own way. You just need to consider this. The Kenny endings, they're not all good. They're still left ambiguous for the future. And the Jane endings, they're definitely not good because they're exactly the same. They're exactly the same. Both endings, they're not good, but they're not bad
let's
either.
clarify
they're
that, guys. I don't want anyone to misunderstand.
And
when we say bad endings, we mean bad, like, emotionally, situationally, not like they're bad put-together endings. We don't mean that.
Or bad endings as, like, Clementine gets killed and everyone dies, that kind of bad. Or good, everyone gets fluffy clouds and pillows everywhere. What I mean, and what Ryan agrees with me here, hopefully, is that these endings are... they're not that kind of bad. They're open-ended because you don't know the future, and being ambiguous, you don't know. It's all up in the air, and we don't know, and that makes it wonderful. Season 3 opening fuel.
I have to say, episode 1 of season 3 is going to be a bitch to make for Telltale.
Yeah, they got so many endings and outcomes they need to follow, but ultimately, I don't really think so because then we have Clementine in Wellington, we got Clementine and Jane in Carver's stronghold, whether you got these three bastards with you, or whether you left them or not, it's kind of clear that they will show up again. They're clearly characters that will show up again. The woman at the gates of Wellington, again, the fucking walls and gates of Wellington, why does that sound like a fucking awesome title? She will definitely show up again. These characters we encountered now in the last few moments, they will definitely show up again. I highly recommend people to actually buy Season 1 and Season 2. I recommend playing The Walking Dead because it's some of the greatest storytelling in a video game ever. I will actually hesitate to call it a game even. I will call it sort of an interactive movie or episode. Television series is pretty much the same as... An interactive experience. It's pretty much the same as Asura's Wrath, almost. It's cutscenes with an interactive choices and the occasional battles. That's pretty much what it is. Only Telltale does it really well. They do it a lot better than Capcom did Asura's Wrath. Asura's Wrath has a great story, has wonderful music and wonderful moments. No, you don't have choices. But I actually, now I think about Asura's Wrath and Walking Dead, I really hope they could have sort of... Because the music in Asura's Wrath is wonderful. I really would like to hear the person that put together the music for Asura's Wrath do that for The Walking Dead, minus the, of course, Japanese/Buddhist instruments, because it wouldn't fit, but I think they would do a great thing. The music in The Walking Dead games, they're great. They're really good.
I'd have to argue that.
But you can hear that they're sort of...
I found the music in The Walking Dead very forgettable. Like, the ending, the credit songs were excellent, but the actual music in-game, I don't remember a single track, nor am I interested in listening to any of the tracks over again. So, I get what you're saying with Asura's Wrath, like they could use some different music, and they could have made some more scenes more dramatic and more epic scenes more epic. I thought the music was just too... It was too bland. Nothing stood out. Yeah.
It was meh.
Yeah, exactly.
It was meh.
Yeah.
Ah, I got it. Oh, I fucking got it. I got it. For Kenny's death, if you kill Kenny, they should totally have taken Katatunia's Departers song, because that song is great. It's a really sad and very emotional song, and while the lyrics basically is the singer singing about his dead brother who passed away, and he sings about that, and it's a very strong song when you know the backstory. But it's a strong one, and I can think this is also. But then again, a lot of people will probably say it makes me think of the piano themes of Mass Effect, because that's what I thought when I first heard the start of it. But it still is a great song. They should definitely up the ante. They shouldn't just follow. Maybe they follow the Walking Dead series music. I will argue that the one song that does stick to my mind the most is the Clementine/Lee theme.
That theme.
That
yeah,
always
the main
plays with
theme,
these two.
The theme that carried over from Season 1. Now, Season 1 actually had some memorable music. Season 1 had some great music, actually. When Lee's going through that horde of zombies, like, he knows where Clem is, he's in that hotel, and he has either the one arm and the one arm with, what was it, a hatchet or knife, I can't remember, or he has both arms and he uses one arm to grabs hold of a sharp piece of glass. The music that plays there is excellent and fits the moment, and that's something I think Season 2 was missing. It missed suiting, fitting music. I don't remember a single track, nor am I interested in listening to a single track. What I think Season 2 got right the most was the character of Clementine, because it really felt like Season 1 like really freaking mattered, because you see Clementine using all the skills that Lee taught her.
Yeah, and it upped the ante with all the characters. I mean, Kenny and Jane, the confrontation we were discussing, but we're really just planning out to discuss the games in general.
I think this has really moved on from Kenny versus... Well, I will put in the title, Kenny versus Jane, but also we'll put over Walking Dead Season 2 overview. This is basically an overview of the games now.
Yeah, it is an overview basically, but it upped the ante of Season 1. It upped the ante. It upped the ante of the characters. It made the characters more memorable. It made them stronger. Okay, minus the new team, so to speak. Again, the original lineup, as always, will always be better. But it really worked with taking Kenny back. And what I really admire is that they kept true to Kenny's character and evolved and worked on with it, made it grow, made it more complex. That was a great move. It was an incredibly good move. But it also is a damning move, because if Kenny dies and he's not present, if Kenny dies and the Season 3's Episode 1 starts with one of the surviving characters are killed off, they're actually taking away a trump card. They're taking away a trump card. But ultimately, I do think that, okay, it's a good thing if Kenny actually dies in Season 3, Episode 1, because his story is over in a sense.
Kenny should die. Now, I want to go over... It's okay if I backtrack a bit to something we were talking about earlier? It's okay if I backtrack a bit?
Backtrack.
Okay. Something I want to talk about is why you said the way Kenny acts. Like you say, he goes too far, like beating these people to death, and like the way he beat in Lily's... Yeah, Lily was the character. No, not Arvo. Lily's father. How he killed Lily's father. I don't see it like that. You see, I see Kenny as a father figure. He's a father through and through. He loves Duck. He's a loving husband. He's a father. He's a father figure. I think that's what he's known the most, being a father. So, he acts like a father. Like he protects his family and the group of survivors, while he also has his own family. He feels like his friends are his family. So he's reacting as a father. His first reaction isn't survive. His first reaction is protect them. Survive. His first reaction is protect them.
Hmm. Okay, yeah, and Jane's solution is leave them, leave them, leave them. Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
I
so
see the point.
I
Excellent
really
point.
think that Kenny's ending, the whole ending with Wellington, I think that was the best ending. I think when Clem and Kenny leave, and I thought that was the right ending. That felt like the canon ending. That felt like what season 1 had been building up to. That Clementine was finally saved. She sacrificed her childhood, used the skills Lee taught her, and found sanctuary. While Kenny, he went through the harshest and darkest journey possible. He went through all the loss. And now he has the final choice whether he wants to lose it all again, lose it all for the last time. And he makes the ultimate sacrifice, a sacrifice I think I probably wouldn't have been able to make. I couldn't. If I was in Kenny's situation, I wouldn't want to leave Clementine. I wouldn't want to leave my family, because I need companionship. I need family. I need friendship. So having to, Kenny is a brave man. That was a brave thing he did there. Jane, I just see her as a fucking coward. She constantly runs. All she does is run. And when she sees something she wants, she doesn't want to give it up.
Yeah. Maybe the faulty reason isn't really the loyalty to Kenny and all that stuff versus Jane. It really is that Kenny is the most well-written character of the
next
show.
To Clementine.
While Jane is a fluke. Yeah, next to Clementine, but again, I'm not counting player characters. Even if she sort of counts as her own character who makes decisions and all that stuff, you're still making decisions as her. So as for characters for complexity, because obviously Lee and Clementine are the most complex written ones, but since you are playing them and their choices are what defines them, choices that precisely. I think Kenny and Kenny, definitely Kenny. Kenny is definitely the most well-written character. NPC character of the entire series, the most well written, the most complex, the one who has the most development, had most time dedicated to him, and which is why I think it's actually unfair to judge Jane, because ultimately she's an outsider and will always be an outsider because the writers made her so. It almost makes me wonder if they didn't deliberately make this decision because something really terrible is going to happen at Wellington. I'm just getting this feeling now. And all that stuff, but again, the endings don't really say that, and the ending at Carver's place, again, it's an undefended place that leaves everything up and open, and you're letting in 3 people that could most likely turn on them. And by the way, speaking of these 3 guys, that probably gonna be called a racist for it, but that is the blackest kid 2 white parents could ever produce.
I think
how the hell did you do that?
I think the whole point of that was to show that they really weren't his parents. Like, it was a setup. That probably wasn't even their kid.
Then it's just fucking stupid. That's just so stupid. No, really, I find it really fucking stupid. That's just amazing. It would just have been easier for the 2 of them to come up and pretend to be wounded, or one of them be wounded.
They wanted to get Simpson like, we have a kid, we have a kid, we have a kid, we have a kid.
Oh yeah, he's my son. Look. Lee could actually get away with it, sort of, but also because he didn't openly say that he was his biological daughter. He says, "I taking care of her." That's pretty much all he states, and that's pretty much just sums it up. That people understand that. Okay, I guess you found her in a abandoned and you took care of her. That's strong of you, man. Real good, man. As the series progresses, but these 2 just going, "Oh, it's totally my son." I don't fucking believe you! I don't! I really don't! Oh, how do you know we're not dangerous? And then Clementine goes fucking badass and just says, how do you know I'm not?
Yeah, that was
That's
badass,
cool.
but again,
You're awesome,
I don't think that...
I still
don't
like the ending.
Okay, so, basically, to sum it up, you don't like any of the endings. You think they're all bad endings and they're too ambiguous, but they do leave room for endless potential in Season 3.
No. Yeah. Okay, I don't say I don't like the endings.
Good
I just don't
endings.
think they are bad versus
Okay.
good endings. You know, good as in they are all saved, or bad as in they're all dead. I don't think they're good or bad in that regard, as people like to lament it. Do I think they're bad open endings versus good open endings? Not gonna get behind. There is the Jane endings, which can vary from being slightly good to very much bad open endings, and then there's the Kenny endings, which vary from being bad open endings to being incredibly wonderfully good open endings. But again, neither can I say I think this ending is the absolute best, even if it feels right for you. But ultimately, the decisions you make will have an effect in Season 3. So, and as for the original debate about Jane versus Kenny, I really don't see the point of actually making fighting over it, because as I said, you base your decisions on what the outcome of the endings were at the very core. Like, Kenny was right, Jane was wrong, Jane was right, Kenny was wrong. Jane's a bitch, Kenny's a madman. They're both good characters in the regard that they both have good intentions. Only they are willing to go to ridiculous and very terrifying and very nerve-wracking extremes to get what they want. Let's not jump around the bush and pretend it's not there. Kenny is he's an extremist when it comes to do certain things.
But like I said,
so is Jane.
like it's that father, it's the father
I mean,
nature in him. He's like, protect everyone no matter the cost.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, I gotta bring this up again. I can't believe I didn't mention this. In Season 1, where he refuses to accept that Doug's gonna die, like, it's the father in him. He's going, can save him, I can save him, must protect him, can't let him die. Like, when Lee has to talk to him on the train, like, Kenny, you gotta let him go, man, he's gonna die. And he's, like, no, and he's at the verge of fighting Lee because he doesn't want to accept the fact, because he's a father. And I'm a family guy. I will admit I'm a family person. Family is most important to me. So that's what I get from Kenny. That's what I get from Kenny. He's like, like his son's too important from him. The father in him is going, don't let him die. Save him. And even when Lee is coming to him with the cold hard truth, the father in him is going, no, save him, protect him. Save him, protect him.
Ultimately, it's really the decision you make. I guess I'm not making a very good point for Jane here, but I am defending her in the way of saying that you can't just base your decision on saving Kenny because of loyalty. It's really weighting the actions of the characters against them before you know that Jane, again, important, before you knew that Jane was storing the kid away in a very, very dangerous situation that could have killed it ultimately. Before. You need to make that distinction before. You can't just say, oh, but I know that she stored the kid in the car, so that's why I'm picking her off. No, that's wrong. Before. You must weight the character's actions. Jane left because she was right, but she still came back, despite she knew it was gonna go to hell. She still came back to help you. She jumps down to save Sarah, even if she argued that leave her behind because she's gonna break. She was right. Jane, that makes Jane very much of a realist and very much of a survivor. Choosing to side with her means just that you choose to one you believe you can survive the longest with. Someone who is someone who is not cold, but, you know, calm, calculative, reasonable, has sound ideas and knows how to freaking survive and live.
Left a baby in a car when surrounded by zombies.
Okay. Again, you're basing what happens before you shoot them, or before you choose who's gonna die. Remember that. Remember that. Not what happens at the end. Not what happens at the end. That's just when you know the extent of how far they're gonna go. Remember that. Remember that. So you're basing previous knowledge of what she will do. She stands up for you. She's right about a lot of things that she does, like the group is gonna break up and all that stuff. And then she just decides to ditch the kid in a car because she wants a reaction out of the guy and to show what he was capable of. Well, it fits her character, I suppose, and that just means you lost me there. I just shot Kenny. I'm leaving you. Bye, bitch. You know, try and survive on your own because you fucking deserve that after that. So go fuck yourself. But before you make that decision, before you get those feelings, that's kind of where the choice comes in and where it matters. As with Kenny, again, that's really why I feel I feel really that the decisions here was in a way stacked. I think they were trying to go for a clever way to stack everyone against Kenny, because everything he does, even if it is to be a family man, even if it's to help, most of his actions are brutal. He acts like AJ the kid, the baby, is his own. I was almost afraid he was gonna start naming the kid, say, "Oh, Duck Junior." I was like, "What the fuck, man?" That's something I was almost afraid of. So I was really happy that he went along with Alvin Junior. Thank goodness for that, because he would probably do it to some degree. I just got that feeling. All of the time you spend your time with Kenny, it's sort of a balance between wondering when he's going to snap. That is really all I thought throughout the entire season. And as I'm gonna continue thinking that, because that's well written, how well written he is. You're still worried about him even you know what's gonna happen at the very end. But like I said, it seems like they stacked a lot of stuff against Kenny just to get players to make the decision of shooting him. It really feels that way. Or maybe it also was a test to see how many would actually side or stick with Kenny, and ultimately give them sort of a reward for making a decision which was actually pretty bad when I think about it. Just look at everything you stack against. You have Kenny, who is slowly drifting into madness and slowly becomes more and more like one of the raiders in Fallout 3. And then you have Jane that tries to have a strong facade and put everything together, and then you decide to shoot him, or you decide that he stabs Jane. Wait, what's gonna happen then? We know what's gonna happen, but what if he actually was so lost? What if he suddenly decided to turn his knife on you? What if that was the outcome? That kind of makes me wondering, did they purposely make these endings just to say that, yeah, you shot the person that probably could have been very loyal or trusting of you and so on, and now you're getting a good ending? Maybe I'm just reading too far into this. Maybe I'm just reading too far into this. But I do get this scary feeling that are they really stacking reason and logic, or survivor, or the way of the survivor versus the way of someone who might, just for the sake of morality and family, old world morality and family values and loyalty like that? I'm probably reading too much into this. I'm sorry. I'm probably spouting bullshit here.
You talk about good games. You voice your opinion. You're not doing anything wrong, Johan. We're not the first one to be having a conversation like this.
Yeah. Ultimately, I'm glad that this is not what actually played out, but it still gets me a bit concerned here. So again, that's really what I mean. Just get these thoughts every time if you play the game and you come to this choice. And well, sorry for the constant interruptions, but people come knocking on my door. People, like I said, every time you play the game and you come to the point where you make a decision in the game, don't think like I do at my second playthrough, what will this choice do? What will this choice do? What will this choice do? Or if you're a first-time player of the game and this is the first time you play the game and you decided to ditch the spoiler warning and you never play the game, I encourage you not to watch any walkthroughs and play the game, make the decisions, and stick to them no matter fucking what. Don't have the luxury of rewinding and reloading a previous save because the ending or the results wasn't to your pleasure. Stick with your choices. I've spoiled the game for me by watching Cryotic's playthroughs and Let's Plays. So the choices I make are choices that I actually, not entirely. The choices I would make are choices that I would most likely make, but also because I know what Cryotic's choices were made and how they were done. So, well, yeah. But then again, remember just to have your choices that when you come to something that has a choice, don't think what the outcome will. Okay, think of what the potential outcome will be, but don't reload when said outcome wasn't what you expected. Because that's just not really, that's not immersing yourself. That's acknowledging you're playing a game. That's not really immersing yourself in what is happening, which I think is very important. It kind of kills the illusion when you do that. As for Jane and Kenny, both are great characters. I just feel that Kenny has the upper hand for being more complex, more driven, more well written than any of the other schlucks and schlumps and schlamokus that appears in the show in general. He's a great character, and that's why he has everything stacked. He has all the coins, and Jane has very little. Other than she was pretty well written for. She is well written, like for a character that appears in a quarter at the quarter of the at the beginning. She is well written. She's a good character. No, she's well written. It's just not enough dedication is given to her for her motives and reasoning for people to actually feel bonded with the person, with her. For really staunch people to be bonded with her. People who watch this, who watch these endings and then goes in the comments and writing, "Oh, when I saw this was gonna happen, I just went, bye bye, Jane. You're fucking terrible. You're a fucking terrible person for saying that." I mean, just try and just try and consider what the characters are done for you. But ultimately, the choices you make are your choices, your decisions. Unfortunately, like I said, my choices are spoiled, and I will sadly pick Kenny over Jane because I love watching this guy redeem himself by letting you go. I really love that. He's this lone hero that wanders away. Jane is this whiny character, coward, backstabbing sort of character that just does things to survive, and while that's commendable, it's still pretty horrible. You leave people behind because you know they're gonna break up and fall apart. That's great and all, but what would have been stronger was if you actually stuck with them through the end. Again, it was probably...
And tried to stop them from breaking apart.
Yes, and tried, but she didn't. She just accepted that this group is gonna die and tried to get you to come with her. She redeems herself by coming back, but ultimately everything she's done just kind of falls flat when you put a kid's life in a child's life in danger just to show someone what the other part was. Not even a
child. Like, even if it was a young kid, you know what? Maybe I would have shined with Dane. If it was a young adult, was sided. It was a baby, a defenseless baby. It can't even move. It can't even move for itself. It can't walk around and crawl away from the zombies. It's a baby that it doesn't even know how to walk.
Well, the argument there is made that the zombies were frozen solid and AJ was never in any danger, as Jane states.
Bullshit. Yeah. He was in constant danger. There are zombies everywhere. The only reason zombies didn't show up, well, of course, because Telltale write it in. But realistically and logically, the only reason AJ was safe is because he was lucky.
No, actually, the zombies were unmoving. I would actually say the cold would have gotten to him. Make the argument instead.
Yeah,
don't make the argument that the zombies would have gotten to him because they were all frozen solid. They were all frozen solid.
Well, that wasn't true. Remember when they were ambushed, the zombies were surrounding them.
Oh yeah, but that was before the storm actually started. When the storm started, they actually their locomotion, and as they are walking corpses and they don't have any blood flowing through them, they eventually just stop moving altogether. Again, that's a weird kind of way. It's an interesting concept, but zombies before. Like that movie about Nazi zombies in Norway showing up out of the ice, that has proven before that ice has never really stopped zombies in any shape or form. They are basically walking dead. They are the walking dead. They are the walking dead. They are cold as the grave. A little bit of ice ain't gonna stop them. It was a nice writing touch of Telltale to have them frozen solid and all that stuff. Doesn't take away the fact that even if AJ, the baby, was in the car, he would have frozen to death. He could have frozen to death in there. So I'm 100% with everyone that says that leaving him in the car like that just to get a reaction out of Kenny was a horrible thing to do.
Yes.
Not because the zombies would have found it. Maybe they could have found it if they were the zombies that could actually move in ice, move through the world of frozen ice or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which they apparently doesn't seem to be, but blah, 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 blah. It's because he could have frozen. He could have frozen to death. Doesn't matter. In a car. Have you ever sit in a car in the freaking winter?
Oh yeah.
That kid.
I remember this one time
dead.
where our truck broke down.
I remember this one time
where our truck broke down and we had no heat. It was one of the most coldest. It was more cold than it was outside.
Yeah, I'm surprised. Alvin Jr. is a strong baby. He's gonna grow up to be a pretty strong kid if the writers will say it, because he did not get sick in that cold. He's a young baby. His immunity system is most likely down to 0, and he actually didn't get a freaking cold or anything more worrying. He actually was put in a car. He was put in an ice-cold car that is the same as putting someone in a kid in an ice box, and he still doesn't sneeze. Damn, kid! You got some strong genes there.
Or maybe it was just that blanket. That must have been one badass blanket he was wearing.
Huh. Well, isn't that the same blanket? Okay, isn't that the same blanket they had this Confederate suit made out of, or whatever?
Yes, the Confederate suit. That must be one hell of a Confederate suit.
Lucky bastard who wore that in the winter. So too shame it didn't protect him from bullets. That's dark. But anyways, I think we can.
It was a Confederate soldier. It was all right. It was Confederate.
Oh yeah, true enough. Oh come on, it's alive. It's still alive. Maybe misguided.
I know. It was a joke. It was a joke.
Maybe misguided. Maybe a bit misguided. Still a guy who fought in a war and died for his beliefs. Gotta sort of respect that.
Indeed.
Even if it's misguided. Anyways, I think we can sum this up. We can wrap this up, I think.
Yes, the Kenny and Jane argument, though, because there's one other thing I want to bring up in this overview of The Walking Dead 2, and that's a major flaw that I think that The Walking Dead may have caused. But first, let's just sum up Kenny and Jane. First off, I'm on Team Kenny. I'm with Kenny 100%. My favorite ending is the Wellington one, and when Kenny leaves AJ and Clementine to Wellington and he walks away. I think Jane is a complete and utter psychotic bitch. While I can understand the whole survivor instinct and some of that, I still think she's fucking crazy, and her ending, there's nothing good about her endings. I think her endings are the bad endings, the bad evil endings, because I think Kenny is Paragon and Jane is Renegade, because I have so much trouble agreeing with the stuff Jane does. I'm with Team Kenny all the way. Johan is indifferent. If I'm correct. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, actually, I'm indifferent, but that's a good comparison. Ken is the Paragon, Jane is the Renegade, much like Commander Shepard. They both do different things to achieve a similar goal. So, yeah, that's a really good comparison, because none of them are horrible characters. None of them are, at their very core, horrible people. They just happen to do horrible things in order to get a point across or to do something. But I'm indifferent, but I am strongly leaning towards Kenny in the regard of that his ends, that he actually redeems himself in the endings by accepting fate, which is something he has been very reluctant to do in the series. I mean, okay, some people will say that, but that's just not his character. Actually, I think that's pretty much suits his character, because this is kind of it's not like he just says, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. You see the tormented, how much it torments him. You see the pain, you see this, and yet he goes on with it. I like that, but I'm indifferent as I'm saying that he also killed a person to do this. He killed someone. That is why I think shooting Kenny but leaving Jane behind is also a pretty good ending, or ambiguous, because it's sort of this lone wolf story where you leave someone behind, and to me it feels like the bittersweet or tragic ending to a movie almost. You leave Jane by the car because you did something terrible, or shooting Kenny because again this gets Jane killed, but it also kills Kenny for what he has done, and again he shows acceptance of his fate. Again, resignation of fate. He understands and accepts and acknowledges and embraces it. And I don't like the Jane endings. I don't, because they just don't give you much for Kenny's endings. That's the problem. Kenny's endings give you much more for the sacrifice. Jane's doesn't. What's your reward for sacrificing one of the most beloved characters in the series? You get an ambiguous ending where
you head back to that crappy stronghold that you spent an entire episode trying to escape from,
and get 3 characters that could potentially be raiders out to get you. How the hell is that good in any way? It's not bad because it's open-ended, but it certainly ain't good. So I'm indifferent. I am indifferent. if it was in a split moment, if it's in a split moment, I may have no knowledge of what is gonna happen next. I would shoot Kenny and side with Yane and then leave her for what she has done. That's exactly how I would have done it if I played for the very first time. If, however, I had to pick, knowing what was gonna happen beforehand, I'll side with Kenny. I'm not 100% in because I see what he's becoming. But I forgive him slightly for being willing to accept leaving you behind. But that is only at the gates of Wellington. I won't listen to him. Okay, know what? You know, fuck it. I'm pretty much on the Kenny side. Maybe a foot in, maybe halfway in. Maybe halfway in, but I'm still reaching.
Preach it!
I'm still reaching out to Jane, sort of, as I want to be in the way of being a survivor. But I want to keep the group together. If I ever get a game where you can make all choices and all that shit, I always try to keep the group together. But ultimately, I'm in the middle ground with more of a leaning towards Kenny than I am towards Jane. I lean towards Jane because I understand and accept this, but I will depart her. I will leave her and walk into the snow if that choice would ever fall upon me. Again, knowing what is gonna happen. I won't side with someone that puts a small life in danger just to prove a point. Kenny was dangerous. Kenny is dangerous. Everyone is fucking dangerous. You're fucking dangerous, even if you're saying you do it for everyone else. I am preaching on. I should probably stop. So, that's my take on it.
It's cool. Alright. Well, I hope you guys all enjoyed. I know this was lengthy, but hey, we all love The Walking Dead.
Oh yes, totally.
We all love great stories, we all love gaming characters, and this game series is one of the best for that, and I hope you guys have enjoyed this commentary. And we'll see you guys later.